Hi everyone. In this video, I wanted to talk about some of the difficulties that most English learners are faced with when it comes to speaking English. I see that as probably one of the most difficult tasks, which is to have a conversation in English, to speak fluently and without hesitation. So, what is the reason for that? Well, based on my years of experience, what I have noticed is when people think in their own native language and then they try to speak English, that process, the process of actually developing the thoughts in their native language and then try to translate it into English, that takes a long time and it takes a long effort as well. So, what is the solution for that? Well, imagine, if you will, your thought is born in your head, in your mind, in your native language. Now you have to search for words to replace the words in your native language. You have to search for English words to replace the words in your native language. And then you have to check your words for grammar. You have to make sure that you have subject verb agreement, you are using the right tense, you are putting the adjective and the adverb where it belongs, and so on and so forth. That is difficult. It takes energy and it takes time. So the answer to that problem is that to have your thoughts, whatever they are, to have your thoughts born in your head, in your mind, in English in the first place. Because if the thoughts are born in your head in English, then you don't have to go through the translation process. It's a very difficult job. Uh, Usually, translators, and especially immediate translators, they go through extensive training to be able to translate what they hear into a different language. So, here in this case, when you are thinking in your native language and then you are translating it to English, you're not hearing what to translate, but it's in your head, you know it's there. But still, you are translating and you are doing immediate translation. So it's very difficult. It's not easy. We want to avoid that so you can speak English fluently and smoothly and easily. So the answer, your thoughts need to be developed. They need to be born in your head in English. If that's the case, then all you have to do is speak them. There is a straight connection. You think of something and you speak it because it is born in your head in English sentences. And that eliminates the need for translation. So now the next step is, or actually the question is, how do I think in English? So if you are born and raised in a non-English speaking country, well, your thoughts are going to be born in your head in your native language, and that is not English. So what you want to do is you want to expose yourself to the English language. Now remember, thoughts and language are on a two-way street. In other words, thoughts are the products of language, and language is the product of thoughts. So the two of them are intertwined. They help and they produce and they affect each other. What you think will affect what you say, and what you will say and hear will affect what you think. So, in order to speak English and in order to have your thoughts born in your head in English, you need to absorb the language. How do you absorb the language? You read, you listen to English, um, and preferably here you listen to clear, well defined English. I'm not talking about TV programs like TV shows like Friends or movies or music, because those are filled with distractions. You have sound effects, you have laugh tracks, You have in movies, you have other noise. You want something that does not have distraction, that does not have sound effects and other noise. I would advise listening to documentaries, news programs, and essays. You can find all of these on YouTube. So you listen, you hear, and you read. Now, in addition to that, when you are listening to something, when you are watching a video, or when you are reading an essay or a story or a novel, it is very, very important that you involve your imagination in what you are reading. You need to create in your mind, in your imagination, you need to create a picture of what you are reading. If you are watching a movie and you hear an interesting phrase, immediately connect that phrase to the scene. Immediately connect the phrase to what is going on and think to yourself, if I was ever in a situation similar to this is the phrase that I would use. Now, this phrase is ready made for you. It's already prefabricated. You don't have to construct it. You don't have to look for words. You don't have to look for prepositions. You don't have to look for adjectives. You don't have to look for adverbs. You don't have to check it for grammar, for lexical correctness. None of that. It's already made. You just take it, you connect it to the picture that you are looking at, and you store it in your memory. The time will come when you will be in a situation where you could use that phrase or that word or that expression. And it takes time, it takes repetition, but if you focus, and every time you come across a new word or a new expression or a new vocabulary, don't take it in the abstract. Don't take it alone. Take it with the scene. Take it as a part of the picture, because it is a lot easier for us to remember pictures than it is to remember words and phrases. If you remember the scene, let's say if you are watching a video, or if you are reading a story, you create the scene, you imagine. So if you remember the scene, then the phrase or the word or the expression will come with it automatically. And then all you have to do is connect these phrases and these sentences and these expressions. And it's a lot easier to connect sentences where each sentence is 4, 5, 6, or maybe even more. It's easier to connect them than to find one word at a time. Imagine if you are building a building. You can either use prefabricated walls, or you can build each wall one block at a time. Maybe a block will take maybe a wall will take 500 blocks. So you have to make 500 different, you have to build, you have to arrange 500 different blocks. That might take forever and it takes a lot of effort. But if you get an already made wall, a prefabricated wall, and all you have to do is install it in place and connect it to the other walls, then now you have a building a lot faster than building it one block at a time. The same with English, the same with speaking English. If you focus on learning sentences and phrases and expressions, instead of focusing on words and vocabulary, now it's going to make your job a lot easier. And learn them as they are. And that is why here it is important to learn English from a native speaker, because it is their native, their original, their natural language. And this is how you learn the language the way it is, not the way somebody else that is foreign to the language constructed the sentences. For accuracy and for precision in expressing your thoughts and what's going on in your mind, you really do need to use sentences and phrases that are already acknowledged for their correctness, that are the product of a native speaker, that are used in the in the nation where that language is being used, be it French or English or Chinese or whatever the case might be. Nobody speaks the language better than the native people. So for that reason, it is important that your whatever input you take in, whatever input you absorb, whatever expressions and sentences and phrases and stories that you actually absorb, you take in, it is important that they are from a native source, because that's how you get the original, the genuine stuff. Now, it's not going to come out immediately. You have to read and read and read and watch movies. Well, I don't want to say movies. Watch documentaries, watch news. Now, there are a lot of videos on YouTube, educational videos. For example, Headway is one of them. Face to Face is one of them. Speak Up is one of them. These videos are designed to teach you how to speak English. Friends, movies, songs, these are not designed to teach you English. They are designed to entertain you. The other stuff, the educational videos, these are the ones that will take you to your goal a lot faster than anything else that you see out there, because they are designed in accordance with the Common European framework. You will see that you start at the level and then it builds up gradually. It's all cumulative, meaning it piles up on top of each other one step at a time. And that is why you want to use it instead of using Friends. I mean, instead of watching Friends. Now, if you want to entertain yourself, that's fine. You can watch Friends, you can watch movies. It will be an additional help to your progress in learning English. But mainly, you want to watch educational videos that were meant to teach you English. You want to read stories, you want to read essays, you want to read newspapers, you want to read books, all in English. You want to probably switch your Facebook to English, because the idea is to change your mode of thinking from your native language, whatever it might be. Maybe it's, I don't know, Arabic, Indian, Pakistani, Swahili, Somali, whatever the case might be, whatever it is. But you want to switch your mode of thinking from your native language to English. And the way to do that is to absorb as much of the English language as possible. And at some point, that's which you absorb will start coming out. And then your way of thinking would evolve around these expressions, these sentences, these phrases, because they would become the nuclei upon which your thoughts will develop. And at some point, you would start developing further thoughts. So you don't have to hear something before you can actually express yourself. In other words, once you have had enough, then you can create your own. But to start with, you have to absorb as much as you can. And that's by reading, listening, and watching educational videos. And when you are watching, again, try to connect what you hear to what you see. When you are watching a video when you are watching an educational video, it's not enough to just listen to the words and try to memorize the sentences or the words. You want to make a connection between what you hear and what you see. You want to see the people's expression. You want to pay attention to their tone of voice, their intonation, their body language, because this way, when you actually when you acquire that sentence, that phrase, you're not acquiring it in the abstract, you are acquiring it with a picture of somebody who is saying it, and you know how they feel, you know if they're angry or happy or sad or depressed or excited, and you also see other people's reaction to it. So you put yourself in the middle of it. And if you do that, that is the fastest way to learn how to converse in English. Now, in addition to that, obviously, you should accompany this activity with a study of the grammar, because it's not enough that you acquire these sentences and phrases and expressions and words. You also want to put them together in a grammatically correct way, especially if you are a person of academics, meaning if you are a college graduate and you are aiming for your IELTS or your TOEFL or any other test. So you don't want to sound like a street person, you want to sound like an educated person. And the difference is in the grammar. The grammar in general will help you express your thoughts as accurately, as precisely, and as clearly as possible within the least amount of words. In other words, you don't have to rattle on and on and on to get your idea across. If you know your grammar, you can get your idea across in the least amount of words, in the least number of words. That's pretty much it. I hope I didn't take too long. I hope this video will help you, and good luck to all.